Hi, welcome. Welcome to this space of play and curiosity for you to be your most radiant self. This is our very first episode, and I just wanted to lay a little bit of ground rules and a safe and loving container for our time together. The two rules I always start off with all of my students are that you are your own authority. I don't know any better than you do when it comes to your life, and I am not here to tell you what or how to think. I'm full of biases, both known to me and unknown to me, as are all of us. And actually, in a real coaching session, it's not about me teaching you or telling you anything. It's all about you. Who are you? Who do you want to be? Who do you dream to be? How can we get there? What's in the way of it? But in a way that's kind and loving to our past, our current, and our future you, in a way that's supportive of your highest timeline and version of self, with courage and depth and a little bit of play. So since this is not a coaching session, it's literally me just talking to you. I still want to approach it in a parallel way, where this is not necessarily, again, for me to teach you what I think, but just to expose you, to explore ideas and expose you to new things and tools. A lot of tools that come from evidence-based framework in coaching literature. Share any insights and reflections I have of myself and the hundreds of students that I've encountered over the last few years, and to create a community, a soul tribe, if you will, where if you choose to try on any of the concepts, that's wonderful. And if not, that's okay too. At least you know that you're not alone in your experiences. Nothing has gone wrong, you're not broken, and that you're not doing this alone. So on the one side of the two coins, we have trusting your own authority, being a strong filter for whatever feels right and true to you. And the second rule or recommendation is to hold space. Hold space for me, for what I say, and for you, for your own curiosity. It's amazing to have a strong, committed filter for the world. And that's kind of what we're here to deconstruct. It's hard to do when there's no space or breath around our attitudes and beliefs. Some of my fastest transformations have happened when there was just a little bit of room for a seed to be planted by someone else. And I realized, oh my gosh, I wasn't even aware that I was thinking that. And of course, like anything else, we can outsource all of our knowing and wisdom to people and teachers outside of us and end up being in sort of like a paralysis or indecision and not inviting our own authenticity to show up, our own values to show up because somebody else knows better. Somebody else is happier. Somebody else has figured it out. They're more successful. They're right. And that's when it circles back to the first rule or recommendation of knowing and trusting your own wisdom, your own authority, your own curiosities, your joys, your passions, and even your pain points and sufferings. They're all perfectly attuned to who you came here to be, what you came here to learn, and the exact ways we each need to grow and to heal and to evolve. And yeah, that's my invitation into this space. So you might be wondering, who the heck is this woman? What is coaching? That word gets thrown out so much. My name is Dr. Sadie Rodriguez. I work as a pediatric cardiac intensivist. And full disclosure, I'm not a psychologist or psychiatrist. I'm not trained in that. I'm just a real person who had real pain and suffering and a really hard transition between graduating training and finding myself to be a new physician, a new mom, found myself super lost, like I was the biggest imposter in the world, that I was going to hurt my patients, that I was a terrible mom. And I, thought like I've completed 12 years of postgraduate training. And here I was full of anxiety, full of anger, so unhappy, and in a really deep suffering place. I accidentally stumbled onto one of the core tenets of coaching, and it was my biggest gift and helped me reclaim my agency, my authority in my situation without having to change anything or anyone. And I could see that I had a choice of how I was interpreting my world, that I could do it differently in a way that supported me instead of punished me and shamed me. And it gave me so much hope and forward action. So I was sharing all of this with a mentor, and in 45 minutes, I had a life-changing conversation. She said, everything you shared with me just sounds like this physician coach I know. You should check her out. I looked her up. I loved it, immediately signed up to get a coaching certificate just to give myself the gift of studying it and understanding it. And within 6 months, I had a certification as a gift to myself. Over time, I started incorporating it into my educational and research scholarly work and started working with people one-on-one over the course of a few years until I realized that I really wanted to go all in on this and create something magical, something nurturing, empowering for others to live in their joy and their purpose with these tools. So here we are, SoulSHINE was born, and here you are now part of the Soul Tribe. I'm so honored that you're here, and we have talked about coaching quite a bit, but for anybody who doesn't know or not familiar with this term, it's not therapy, it's not peer support or mentorship. It really uses questioning and curiosity to explore our beliefs, our attitudes, and understand how those very beliefs and perceptions may be either getting us closer to or further from where we want to go in life, what our dreams are, who we want to be. The word coach, interestingly, comes from a Hungarian word, and it entered the English language in the 1500s, referring to a carriage, which is obviously something that literally physically takes you from one place to another. And I think that's such a brilliant word because that's what we're doing. We're going from one place to another. We're using curiosity. We're actively deconstructing and reconstructing our whole belief system in an incredibly powerful and open way to open us up to new possibilities and to a life that we love. Socrates, as you know, we use questioning to stimulate critical thinking and illuminate ideas. And that's become foundational to medicine and medical education. I always tell my students, just as a quick side note, I think that there's an important cultural difference in the modern era of medicine. The Socratic method, I think at times can be used to shame learners, to focus on their deficiencies, and to humiliate them. But in coaching, it's very neutral. It's from fascination and curiosity in a way that really can excite you and expand you and open you up. And it's really about having self-compassion about our human experience, to love ourselves more through it and love others through it with acceptance and with freedom. It's not at all to shame. So if you ever have a coaching session with me or with anyone within SoulShine, just know that the questions are there to open you and not to guide you to a right answer, not to shame you, but they're there for exploration and clarity and love. Okay, so back to coaching. So most people, again, know coaching from sports to help athletes strategize and to train to improve their performance in the early 1900s. And later in that century, really coaching entered the business world to enhance leadership skills and performance and productivity. And in the 1990s was the rise of life coaching. So they focused on personal development, on goal setting, on achieving life satisfaction. And really at the same time, it started to enter healthcare, specifically in health education, hoping to enhance patient engagement and support lifestyle modifications. There was a really strong focus in the beginning of healthcare on chronic disease management, on weight loss, on smoking cessation, and anything that was behavioral, but obviously health related. And then through there, in the 2010s thereabout, it really expanded to more professional and personal well-being within our healthcare providers, physicians, nurses, medical students, trainees. And there's been lots and lots of studies on this since the 2010s. So it has been shown to increase self-compassion, resilience, flourishing, leadership skills, job satisfaction, retention, team dynamics, and decrease emotional exhaustion, depersonalization, stress, moral injury, and imposter syndrome. So a lot of really good things. And I'm going to tell you actually all the reasons you shouldn't trust me or trust coaching before I tell you why you should. Because I think it's important to be a fully informed consumer. This is your brain, this is your time, and it's mine too. And that's part of, right, having our own authority and our own filter. So the first thing you need to know is that as of now, 2024, coaching is not a regulated industry. Anyone can call themselves a coach without even being certified. There are some groups, the International Coaching Federation, the European Mentoring and Coaching Council, that do have professional and ethical standards and guidelines that most people commonly refer to. And specifically the healthcare field, there's a National Board for Health and Wellness Coaching, which is another very respected body. There's a lot of discussion if coaches need some sort of standardized testing or evaluation. But again, as of this recording, that doesn't exist yet. So remember all those incredible findings I mentioned in the studies? Well, as with everything and everything in research, they're all full of limitations. And I, again, just want to disclose everything to you because that's important to me, that we have an honest relationship. So very few of them are longitudinal studies, meaning the focus of the study was very short-term outcomes. And so we don't really know if you have an intervention of coaching, what's the long-term impact? How much of it sticks around? How much do you need repetition? Number two, as we alluded to, since there's no standardization of coaching, there's also in all of these studies, no standardized methodology or delivery of the coaching in these different studies. So some are in person, some are virtual, some are mixed, some are group, some are one-on-one. Some of those are mixed. Some are synchronous, meaning people are doing things real time. Some are after the fact and consuming it passively. So there's a lot of different ways to deliver it, which is wonderful. And it also makes it difficult sometimes to interpret the results and the consistency of the results. Also, a lot of these studies you're going to find have a pretty limited representation of populations and settings. Mostly they're in healthcare professionals like physicians or nurses or trainees. Often they're in hospital settings and in academic settings. And there hasn't been as much focus on rural areas, international contexts, primary care, and other healthcare providers and affiliates. Another important fact is that a lot of outcome measures are all self-reported. Even though they're validated instruments, they're all subject to bias because they are subjective. Another limitation, we're talking about beliefs of who we are, and we know that we're all so multidimensional and that our culture, our history, so many layers affect and impact our stories of self. And we really haven't also dived into cultural sensitivity and studied it and how that impacts different way we identify with ourselves and with coaching. Another thing that we haven't looked at is how does it compare to mentoring and to training and to counseling and to peer support, all of those other wonderful supportive modalities that we mentioned earlier. While they're separate, do they have a role together? Is one better than the other, less than the other, work better in certain contexts than another? And lastly, we don't really know much about tailored approaches. We all know intuitively that we all have individual needs and specialties and career stages and specific challenges in both our professional and personal life that we all face. And we haven't really dived into dissecting sort of different phenotypes of what that looks like. There's also two general frameworks of coaching that's mixed in the literature. So one is very behavior focused. It centers around our actions or our inactions and how to change them. So for example, you want to achieve a goal, then you need to do certain things to achieve that goal. One criticism, though, is that you might have some cognitive dissonance or discord between your beliefs and your attitudes and the behavior in question. So what do you do about that? Do you just have to rely on like willpower and determination to force yourself to change when you still have an underlying belief about it? So as you can tell, I'm a little bit biased, which I said in the beginning, I have my own biases. But the other main framework is based in cognitive behavioral therapy, which is a framework that looks at metacognition or thinking about our thinking or consciousness work or thought work. You might hear all of those words thrown around. It's really widely used form of thought work that focuses on the whole relationship and interplay between our thoughts, our emotions, and our behaviors. And the basic tenets say that a lot of our psychological problems are partly based on unhelpful ways of thinking or faulty ways of thinking, and that these thinking patterns can then influence our emotions and therefore our behaviors and lead us to either distress or just not going in the way that we want to go. So it's not really focusing on the behavior, but it's really focusing more on the identification of the thoughts behind them and restructuring them. Because if we can identify them and question them, then perhaps we can replace them with more realistic and balanced thoughts, which might lead to a different emotion, which might lead to a different behavior, and then would lead you to a whole different experience and getting you closer to being who you want to be, going where you want to go. All of the techniques in cognitive-based therapy are evidence-based. So that's just to catch you up on a really quick overview, background and history on coaching and how it made its way into healthcare and what all the limitations are. And just so you're aware, so you can make your own informed decision. You can use that own filter that we talked about in the beginning to run your decisions through and hold a little bit of space for new ideas. Despite all those limitations, I love coaching, and I'm going to tell you why. All of the techniques in cognitive behavioral therapy, they've been studied by science. They're evidence-based, and same with coaching. So we know that it works over and over, despite all those limitations. And I see it in my students. I see it in myself. You don't have to change anyone or anything. You don't have to wait for anyone to make a difference in your life. It gives you a gift and a freedom to let everybody and everything be exactly as they're going to be, and allows you to change the meaning making of what you're going through, gives you power and choice. Like, in spite of all of this, how do I want to be? How do I want to show up? So there's no one size fits answer. Cognitive work has its purpose and its place and its limitations. I 100% recognize that. And I still choose to continue to do this work in my own life and with my students because it gives me hope that it's possible to be who I want to be, to go where I want to go, and to expand my possibilities and dreams of what I can live in this life. It reconnects me to non-judgment and acceptance, and that gives me a lot of peace. And it's not just peace because things feel good. It's peace when things are terrible and painful. And it's a way to be kind to myself and to those around me, to have compassion and give me forward momentum in a way that's sustainable. So here we are. Welcome to SoulSHINE, a space for play, for curiosity, for reconnecting with your freedom, your joy, and your possibility. I wish for you the same that I wish for me, to constantly discover more about myself, my brain, my heart, my soul, my desires. I wish you to feel supported, and I'm so, so honored to be a part of your soul tribe. Sending you love. See you next week.